Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. Over the next few weeks, Dragonflight is set to gain additional updates with the patch 10.2.6, Season 4 as well as 10.2.7, and somewhere in between of it we should be seeing the alpha for the War Within expansion, at least if we are to follow the most recently updated roadmap. This means that the month of March and even April could potentially be huge for World of Warcraft, because up until so far, we've only got small glimpses at the next expansion through some of the interviews, screenshots, and even the hero towns, which are being unveiled roughly once a month. But an alpha would give us a much better idea of what the expansion is shaping up to be, with some of the content, zones, features, and even some of the gameplay aspects that are being brought in with this hero subspec system. Up until March, however, players have a couple of different options. Some are looking to take a break, others have been diving into the Season of Discovery, which has a brand new dungeon raid for you to plunder. However, if you're not taking a break or playing Season of Discovery, there are a couple of things you can actually start working on right now in preparation to the War Within pre-patch, which is still kind of far away from now. But if you want to maximize some of the features coming with the pre-patch, such as systems like Warbands and Dynamic Flight, the upcoming leveling revamp that's also going to adjust how Evokers will level in the next expansion, we'll also figure out a few ways to prep a couple of characters ahead of time if you're still not sure of which hero spec you're looking to play as your next main going forward. But right before we get into today's video, most of you guys watching these kind of update videos are still not subscribed. However, the more of you remind, the more of you do, so let's keep it going. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell if you're watching these videos anyway, especially if you want to get more regular content regarding the next upcoming World of Warcraft expansion, The War Within. As part of the pre-patch update for The War Within, we'll be getting early access to a handful of features, and one of the more exciting features of that lineup is going to be the brand new Warbands system. Warbands allows you to bind a bunch of your characters all together into a singular warband, where they now get to share a variety of resources and items in an account-wide progression. This account-wide everything moniker accounts for things like crafting resources for professions, or even currencies such as gold all across all of your characters, and even certain warbound gear, which are going to be items that some of your more geared characters can now acquire, and they get to pass those items off to your alts, with those items being kind of account-bound rather than soul-bound. And even with this whole lineup of various conveniences that are now going to be shared across your account, everybody can agree, whether you're a high-end raider or just a casual player, that Transmogs becoming account-wide is probably one of the best aspects of this warband system, which essentially allows you to obtain items, and whether your character can equip them or not, like if a rogue gets a bunch of plate or mail gear, they can still add all of those items into the Transmog collection even if you can't directly wear them. So if you're looking to prepare for the War Within, it might not be a bad idea to start farming up some of those Transmogs that you're interested early. Or rather yet, just stop throwing away Transmogs even if your character cannot use it. The next time you're going through a raid for the mounts of Transmog and you find some awesome looking items that your character can't wear, like as a Death Knight if you find some exotic mail gear, some slick leathers, or even some unique cloth items, don't vendor them, just keep them in your bank instead. The assumption is, once the expansion launches and the pre-patch is upon us, all of those items should be easily added to your character's account-wide collection. This is true of various mounts that are getting retroactively adjusted for the War Within, as well as achievements in character progression and the way renown works, and it seems the Transmog will likely follow suit. So it may be a good idea to stock up on some backspaces within your banks, and be sure to store all of the items that you find visually appealing, so that all of your characters may be able to use them later once the pre-patch eventually launches. Another feature of the 11.0 pre-patch update is going to be the Dynamic Flight system. Currently within Azeroth, dragon riding exists, however not every mount has access to dragon riding. In the War Within, dragon riding turns into dynamic flight instead, which is basically the same dragon riding system just expanded to other mounts, not just rideable dragons. And there's a lot of mounts we know on the list, at least about 100 of them, that will have dynamic flight enabled. During the early Dragonflight days of the patch 10.1 and onwards, many data miners have been able to find new animations being incorporated to some of the more well-known and established mounts in World of Warcraft, with many archetypes such as griffins, wyverns, and even to some degree horses getting access to brand new animations that they never had before. And a lot of these animations look very similar to some of the dragon riding animations all of your various drakes have had access to. It was pretty evident early into Dragonflight that dragon riding was a success with the WoW community, and of course they were going to keep it as a system going forward, even going as far as to make it one of the 2 accessible modes of flight once the pre-patch officially launches. So if you enjoy the TBC flying where you're kind of swimming through the air, you can still do so if that is your preference, or if you want to enable dynamic flight on select mounts, then your mounts will be able to utilize that dynamic fast riding system. While the pre-patch isn't here just yet, we did get a small list of some of the mounts that are going to get the dynamic flight system, and there's actually quite a big list for us to go over. So if you look to expand your dynamic flight mount collection, you can start working on some griffins or wyverns depending on your faction. Similar models to wyverns that share the same skeleton, like the Dragonflight Skyclaws, will also have a very similar animation, but also similar dragon riding possibilities. Most dragon mounts from older expansions and newer, such as the mounts from the Time Rifts, the Valajar mount of the Legion faction, as well as some of the older dragon mount models will also gain the ability to dragon ride like all the other dragons. But also, the reptile and dinosaur cousins like the pterodax will also gain the ability to dynamic flight as well. So the system will also encompass other mounts that are not dragon or dinosaur in origin. Mechanical mounts such as the aerial unit R21X will also gain guaranteed dynamic flight system. Ardent Hippogriffs, Ascended Aquilons, Lambent Manta Rays, Silverian Dreamer, and even other mounts that have a very similar structure to all of these other mounts should also get the ability to dynamic flight as well. Druid is another class that will also gain dynamic flight natively, since druids have access to a druid form, and druids specifically can expand their own collection of some of the dynamic flight forms they will be able to gain. With all of the new flight forms introduced with the Emerald Dream update, a variety of flying forms added through the glyph system introduced back during the expansion of Shadowlands, and even a unique owl-specific flying mount with a passenger flight system automatically enabled from the expansion of Legion. The War Within expansion is going to be raising our character's maximum level to 80, with 10 additional levels for us to gain as we go out and explore all of the new subterranean zones of the new expansion experience. That also means that there's going to be some changes and remodeling as to how the early leveling experience works. Overall, the experience of leveling up a fresh new character outside of that 70 to 80 experience should feel relatively just as fast as it is today. To make sure this happens, there first must be some changes, one of which means the Dragonflight will now become one of the expansions that will be added into the pool of leveling expansions via Chromie Time leveling, along with expansions such as Legion, Battle for Azeroth, Draenor, Wrath, TBC. Dragonflight is just going to be another experience for newer players or newer alt to head through. That means level 10 players will be able to dive into Dragonflight directly and then level through the entire Dragonflight story before they get to head into the War Within chapter. This also means there will be additional changes to yet another addition of a hero class with this expansion, the class of the Evoker. Similar to Death Knights or Wrath of Lich King or Demon Hunters of Legion, Evokers will now start with a level 10 character. This is because the Evoker was a hero class that set you up for the brand new expansion experience, and therefore started at a higher level so that you could more directly jump into the brand new content, which is exactly how Death Knights and Demon Hunters used to work like. But now that Dragonflight is going to be part of that baseline leveling journey, the Evoker will also get to start out with a baseline level, and they'll be able to gain levels all along the journey up until they reach the new content. So unless you want to level a brand new Evoker all over again from level 10, you might as well go and make your Evoker right now. Even if you don't plan to play one currently, just make one really quickly, get them out of the starting zone, and then park them in Stormwind or Orgrimmar, and that's all you really have to do. Though if you do decide to level an Evoker, I really do recommend for newer players to this class to really go through and play Devastation and Preservation. I know that AUG tends to be the more popular pick for group content with its buff-oriented playstyle, but Dev and Preservation have so many cool gameplay elements behind them that I find a little bit more engaging than Augmentation. Even if those two specs are not nearly as popular, they still can perform well even in some of the high-end levels. But even if you don't want to play one, at the very bare bones, just create one and then leave them part in the capital city up until the pre-patch event drops. For pre-patch events, we usually have some kind of an invasion from another force or some sort of a global event that allows players to earn additional gear to quickly catch up before the next expansion, or really quickly level a bunch of characters before the pre-patch eventually transitions into the official expansion launch. And there will likely be a very similar pre-patch event with this expansion, which will make leveling and gearing that Evoker character a breeze compared to today. Though out of all the features arriving with the War Within, I am personally the most excited about some of the hero talents and hero specs arriving with the new expansion, as well as all of the different class changes and revamps that are likely will be arriving with the pre-patch event. While during the pre-patch event we won't get access to the hero talents, which are part of the mainstay expansion experience, however, it doesn't mean that we can't see some of the previews of the hero talents which they've been unveiling over the last few weeks, and we'll likely see the rest of them all throughout the alpha and the beta of the War Within, which is actually happening quite soon. It's still very difficult for many to imagine what these hero talents will play like, and it's going to be very difficult to judge them up until we actually get to see some of that gameplay and the impact that the hero talents will have in our classes when it comes to open world content, solo content, group content like raids, dungeons, and even PvP. Up until then, though, a lot of it comes down to the class fantasy, which is what a lot of players in the community are the most excited for. Whether you're looking to pick up a Dark Ranger to really embrace the Sylvanas-like archer, or if you're trying to really embrace the Keeper of the Grove, of the Frostfire Mage, or even the Mountain Thane Warrior. There's a lot of cool concepts and ideas behind these hero talents. And the ideas are enticing enough for many players to want to try to prepare for those classes in one way or another. The easiest way you can start doing it right now is by slowly but efficiently leveling a handful of alts. And I don't mean grind out levels all in a single sitting, since we're not going to be seeing pre-patch for quite a while, but you can still start preparing your characters ahead of time. If you look over the Dark Ranger talents and you love the idea behind the Dark Ranger fantasy, you can at least make a hunter, outfit that hunter with full set of heirloom gear, and then leave him part in Stormwind or Augermore to collect a metric ton of rested experience. And it may not be a bad idea to log on those characters periodically during certain in-game weekly events that will allow you to gain incredible amounts of experience rather quickly. Whether we're talking about the additional bonus experience that comes from the Darkmoon Fair, or even some of the time-walking events which provide you access to dungeons which even lower level characters can participate in, dungeons which are one, incredibly fast and easy to do, but also dungeons that offer incredible amounts of experience gains with every single run, could present you with a handful of opportunities where you need to spend very little amount of time on a character but gain the most amount of levels slowly but surely during your wait towards the pre-patch event. Because by the time pre-patch launches, or rather by the time the expansion launches, it may be a good idea to have at least all of these characters ready, so that once the expansion does launch, you can dive right in and start exploring all of these hero specs from day one. This can be extra helpful, especially if you're not going to be getting the special edition just to get the beta access to the War Within, and are in between of some of the classes that you plan on maining but are not quite sure on exactly which hero spec you want to settle on. Being able to get a taste of some of those hero talents as early as possible can help you hopefully settle on which class you're likely going to be maining once the expansion is finally here. As per usual, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, in the description of every single video and live stream, we have a link to our Discord community channel. Probably the best place to reach out to me directly in case you want to let me know what you thought about this video or hang out with the rest of the community to discuss some of the upcoming changes. Join our Discord to become part of the community. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.